She signed at 19. 3 albums later, she was living in her car while her songs played on every radio station. He sold 50 million records and died broke. She won 5 Grammys, but couldn't keep her house. Welcome to R&B Groove. Today we're exposing the 10 darkest record deals in R&B history. And what happened to number 1 will make you question everything about the music industry. Number 10, The Jackson 5, 1968. Starting at number 10, a deal that became the blueprint for exploitation. In 1968, 5 brothers from Gary, Indiana signed away their futures. The Jacksons signed what insiders now call a 360 deal before 360 deals even had a name. Berry Gordy didn't just take record sales, he took everything: concerts, merchandise, TV appearances, endorsements, complete control over their image, sound, and careers. The royalty rate, less than 3%. For every dollar generated, the brothers collectively got less than 3 cents, split 5 ways, before expenses. Joseph Jackson admitted he didn't understand the contract. 40 pages of legal terminology, no independent lawyer. They were just kids who wanted to make music. By the mid-70s, they generated $50 million for Motown. Number 1 hits, sold-out tours, faces on lunchboxes, but barely making enough to support their families. The worst part? When they tried to leave in '75, they didn't own their name. Motown owned the Jackson 5 trademark. They had to rebrand as the Jacksons. Start over completely while Motown kept profiting from everything. This deal showed labels exactly how much they could take from young artists who didn't know better. Number 9, TLC, 1991. Number 9 proves the people claiming to protect you can be destroying you. TLC burst onto the scene in '92. Debut album sold 6 million. Crazy Sexy Cool sold 15 million. Best-selling album ever by an American girl group. They were everywhere and completely broke. In '95, at their peak, TLC filed for bankruptcy. Their lay-face deal was structured to ensure they'd never see real money. Recoupment clauses. Every expense paid back before artists saw a dime. Recording, videos, tour support, marketing, wardrobe, choreographers, all recoupable. Waterfalls cost over $1 million. TLC paid for it. On paper, added to their debt. Here's the sinister part. The label controlled costs. TLC didn't decide to spend $1 million. Layface did. But the artists paid it back. Lisa Left Eye Lopes told reporters they'd sold millions, but each member took home $50,000 a year. While executives bought vacation homes, she called it sharecropping. LaFace held all leverage, multiple albums owed, refused to record, breach of contract, lawsuit, career over, one choice: keep making music for others. Bankruptcy was a public cry for help. The industry barely blinked. TLC's story became a warning labels used to control others. They generated hundreds of millions, revolutionized R&B, but were punished for success by design. What a shame you shoot and aim for someone else's brain. You claim the insane.
Quick question, are you subscribed? If not, you're part of the 99% who watch and disappear. Here's the problem. YouTube won't show you our next video unless you subscribe. So if you want more untold music stories like this, hit that button right now. 2 seconds. Do it before you forget.
Number 8, Toni Braxton, 1993. Number 8 shows how desperation becomes a weapon. Toni Braxton's voice changed R&B. 93 debut, 8 million copies, 3 Grammys. Secrets was bigger, 15 million. Unbreak My Heart became timeless. Then she filed bankruptcy, twice. 98 shocked everyone. How is a superstar broke? Her Layface deal, same label that trapped TLC, 35 cents per album. Life is so cruel without it. Millions sold, but after recoupable expenses, she was in debt despite massive success. You here beside me. She tried to break free, cited unfair terms. Layface sued for millions. Break my heart. The message, you're our property. Leave and we destroy you. No choice but a new deal. Barely better. More albums under similar terms to escape the lawsuit. A cycle. Make music. Go into debt. File bankruptcy. Sign again. Repeat. Second bankruptcy came in 2010. Same story. Armed success, acclaim, tours, awards. But contract structure meant constantly paying debts she didn't owe. Debts created by a system designed to keep her dependent. She's described feeling ashamed, like she failed. But she didn't fail. The system failed her, a system that turns talent into perpetual debt. Number 7, Prince, 1977. Number 7, an artist so fed up he changed his name to a symbol to fight back. Prince signed with Warner Brothers in 77, 18 years old, brilliant but young. Deal seemed generous initially. Reality became clear as his star rose. Core issue, ownership. Warner owned every master recording Prince created. He didn't own his music, couldn't control usage, couldn't decide releases. Warner got bulk profits. By the early 90s, he was massive, but frustrated, wanted to release on his schedule. He was prolific. Warner told him to slow down. Wait, not how Prince worked. 93, Prince shocked everyone. Changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol, appeared with slave written on his face, said Warner owned the name Prince. He was a slave to the contract. Media mocked him, called him crazy. He wasn't. I'm making a point about ownership. Don't own your masters, don't own your work, don't own your work, not free. Warner refused renegotiation. Prince campaigned, performed with slave visible, interviews explaining the deal. Released music independently online, bypassing the system entirely. 96 brought settlement, fulfilled obligations, left the label. 2000, his masters reverted back. He owned his music again, changed the conversation on artist rights. But even winning, he spent years trying to get early Warner masters. Got some, never got others. Even in victory, damage was permanent. Number 6, Little Richard, 1955. At number 6, we're going back to where this all started, to a deal so predatory that it robbed one of music's founding fathers of the wealth he earned from creating rock and roll itself. Little Richard was an unstoppable force who fused gospel, R&B, and raw energy into something the world had never heard. Tutti Frutti, Long Tall Sally, Good Golly Miss Molly. These weren't just songs, they were seismic events that created rock and roll. In 1955, Richard signed with Specialty Records. He was 22, broke, desperate for a chance. The contract offered him half a cent per record sold, half of 1 cent. If 1 million people bought his record, he'd make $5,000 before any deductions. But it gets worse. The contract stated that Specialty Records owned all the songs Richard wrote. Every composition, every melody, every lyric. Which meant when other artists covered his songs, and they did constantly, Richard didn't see a penny from those versions either. Little Richard's music was covered by everyone. Elvis Presley, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones.
Moon contest, Jimmy and Jovita dancing to Little Richard and...
Pat Boone had massive hits with sanitized versions of Richard's songs. These covers generated millions, and Little Richard received nothing.
Hey, you want it?
By the 1960s, Little Richard had walked away from music entirely. He'd become a minister.
Tutti Frutti.
When asked why he left at the height of his fame, he said he was tired of being robbed, tired of seeing other people get rich off his work. For decades, Richard tried to reclaim his masters and publishing rights. He hired lawyers, he fought in court, but Specialty Records and the companies that bought his catalog refused. And they claimed the contracts were legal and binding. Little Richard performed well into his 70s, not because he loved touring at that age, but because he needed the money. The man who invented rock and roll died in 2020, still fighting for proper compensation. His story shows that the exploitation of black artists in music didn't start in the 90s or 80s. It started at the very beginning. It was baked into the industry from day one. Number 5, Florence Ballard of the Supremes, 1967. Number 5 is about a woman whose voice helped create Motown's signature sound, but who died in poverty while her former group continued making millions. Florence Ballard was a founding member of the Supremes. The Supremes weren't just a group, they were Motown's crown jewel, the biggest selling act in the label's history. Between 1964 and 1969, they had 12 #1 singles. They performed for presidents, they broke down racial barriers, and Florence Ballard was essential to their sound. But by 1967, Florence was pushed out of the group. The official story was that she was difficult, unreliable, that she'd started drinking. But the real story is darker. Florence had started questioning Berry Gordy, questioning why the Supremes were making Motown millions, but seeing relatively little money themselves. In Motown's world, questioning Berry Gordy was unforgivable. So Florence was removed from the group she founded, and when she left, she signed a settlement. She was paid a lump sum of about $160,000 in exchange for giving up all future royalties from every Supremes record she'd sung on.
Gone, boy.
Every hit, every album, every future sale, gone. $160,000 might sound like a lot.
Gone, boy.
But the Supremes had generated tens of millions for Motown, and that money was payment for past and future earnings. It was a buyout designed to cut Florence off completely. Without the ongoing royalty payments she was entitled to, Florence's money ran out quickly.
But you keep me hanging on.
She tried to launch a solo career, but Motown used its industry connections to ensure she'd never get another major record deal. She was blacklisted. By the early 70s, Florence Ballard was on welfare. The woman who'd sung on some of the most iconic records in American history was living in public housing, struggling to feed her 3 children. She tried to sue Motown, tried to prove she'd been coerced into signing that settlement. But her lawyer was incompetent, possibly bribed, and the case went nowhere. By 1976, Florence was broke, depressed, and battling health issues. She died of a heart attack at 32 years old. Meanwhile, the Supremes' catalog continued generating millions. Diana Ross became a superstar, Berry Gordy became a mogul, and Florence Ballard was buried in an unmarked grave because her family couldn't afford a headstone. And Florence's story is a reminder that these contracts don't just take money. They take dignity, they take health, they take futures, and in Florence's case, they took everything. Number 4, Ray Charles, 1954. At number 4, we have a deal that trapped a genius for years, even as he revolutionized music not once, but twice. Ray Charles was already a rising star when he signed with Atlantic Records in 1954. His talent was undeniable, but like most black artists of that era, he had limited bargaining power. The contract he signed gave Atlantic ownership of all his master recordings. Every session, every take, every finished song. Ray would receive a small royalty, but Atlantic would own the music forever. Here's what makes this particularly painful. Ray Charles created a new genre of music while under that Atlantic contract. He took gospel music and secularized it, blending it with R&B and blues to create soul music. Songs like I Got a Woman and Hallelujah, I Love Her, so weren't just hits. They were revolutionary. They changed the entire landscape of American music. And Atlantic Records owned all of it. Ray was making them wealthy beyond imagination while receiving a fraction of what his work was worth. But Ray Charles was also brilliant, not just musically, strategically. He studied his contract, he counted down the years. Tell your mama, tell your pa, wanna sing. And when his Atlantic deal expired in 1959, he did something almost no artist had done before. He negotiated ownership. His new deal with ABC Paramount was groundbreaking. Ray Charles would own his master recordings. He'd retain publishing rights to his songs, and he'd receive an unprecedented royalty rate. She can fit it all. It was the first major deal of its kind for a black artist. It gave Ray control over his work and his financial future. Under this new deal, Ray created his most iconic work, a modern sounds in country and western music. Georgia on My Mind, Hit the Road Jack. These weren't just songs, they were cultural milestones. And because Ray owned them, he actually benefited from their success. But here's the tragedy. All those Atlantic recordings, the ones that founded soul music, that influenced everyone from Aretha Franklin to Stevie Wonder, Ray never owned those. Atlantic retained the rights. And those recordings continued generating money for decades. Money that should have gone to Ray, but went to Atlantic instead. Ray Charles became wealthy later in life, but not from his most groundbreaking work. He made his fortune from the music he owned, not the music he created first. And that Atlantic catalog, it's been sold multiple times over the years, each sale generating tens of millions of dollars. Each time, Ray's estate saw nothing. Ray's story shows that even when artists win, they lose. Even when they negotiate better deals, the damage from early contracts is permanent. The music industry has a long memory for profits, but a very short memory for the people who create them. Number 3. Frankie Lymon, 1956. Number 3 is one of the most heartbreaking stories in music history.
Why do fools fall in love? Why do...
A child star who died at 25, penniless, while his music continued making millions for everyone except him. Frankie Lymon was 13 years old when Why Do Fools Fall in Love became a massive hit in 1956. 13, his voice was extraordinary, pure and powerful. The song sold over 1 million copies and made Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers one of the biggest acts in the country. Frankie became the first black teenage pop star. He toured the world. He performed on television. He was making thousands of dollars per show. But Frankie never saw most of that money. His contract with G Records was signed by his parents when he was still a minor. The royalty rate was minimal, and worse, the contract gave G Records ownership of Why Do Fools Fall in Love. Not just the recording, the song itself, the composition, the publishing rights, everything. As Frankie got older, the hits stopped coming. By 16, his voice had changed. The novelty of a child star wore off. And suddenly, no one wanted to book him anymore. By 18, he was broke. He'd made hundreds of thousands of dollars for G Records, but he had nothing to show for it. Frankie struggled with drug addiction. He bounced between small venues, trying to recapture his fame. He recorded sporadically, but nothing stuck. By his early 20s, he was living in poverty. And the whole time, Why Do Fools Fall in Love was still playing on radio stations, still being covered by other artists, still generating money, just not for Frankie. In 1968, Frankie Lymon died of a heroin overdose in his grandmother's apartment. He was 25 years old. He had 99 cents in his pocket. Meanwhile, his signature song had generated over $20 million. None of it went to him. After his death, 3 different women claimed to be his widow, all fighting for a piece of his estate. But there was no estate. There was nothing to inherit. Frankie died penniless because the contract he signed as a child had taken everything. But the story doesn't end there. Decades later, in 1981, Diana Ross covered Why Do Fools Fall in Love. It became a hit again, generated millions more. In the 90s, lawsuits erupted over who owned the song rights. Record labels fought each other. Music publishers fought each other. Everyone wanted a piece of Frankie Lymon's work. Or everyone except Frankie's family, who were still left with nothing. Frankie Lymon's story exposes something the industry doesn't want you to think about. Child stars, young artists. They're not protected. They're exploited more aggressively because they're vulnerable. They don't understand contracts. They trust adults who claim to have their best interests at heart. And by the time they realize what happened, it's too late. Number 2. Leonard Chess and the Chess Records Artists, 1950s to 1960s. At number 2, we need to talk about an entire label whose business model was built on systematic exploitation of black artists during the birth of modern music. Chess Records was home to some of the most important artists in blues, R&B, and early rock and roll. Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Etta James, Chuck Berry, Little Walter, Willie Dixon. These artists didn't just make hit records, they created the foundation of rock and roll. Their music influenced the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, and virtually every rock band that followed.
You know he walk like love. You know he talk like...
Leonard Chess, who founded the label with his brother Phil, positioned himself as a friend to these artists. A patron. Someone who gave black musicians opportunities they couldn't get elsewhere. And in some ways that was true. And Chess Records did record music that major labels ignored. But the contracts these artists signed were catastrophic. Most Chess Records artists received 1% to 3% royalties. Some received even less. But the real issue was something called cross-collateralization. Here's how it worked. If an artist had 1 hit and 3 flops, the costs of producing and promoting those 3 flops were deducted from the earnings of the 1 hit. So even successful songs often earned the artist nothing after all the deductions. Willie Dixon was one of the most prolific songwriters in Chicago blues. He wrote hundreds of songs, classics that became standards. But Chess Records claimed ownership of most of his compositions. They'd register the songs under Leonard Chess's name or under the Chess Records publishing company. When Led Zeppelin used Dixon's music without credit, it was Chess Records that sued, not Willie Dixon. And Chess Records kept the settlement money. Muddy Waters, one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century, died with almost nothing. His classic recordings generated millions, but he barely saw any of it. Same with Howlin' Wolf, same with Etta James. She's spoken about how she'd have hit records but couldn't afford rent, how she'd see Chess driving new Cadillacs while she took the bus. Chuck Berry had a slightly different experience. He was savvy enough to retain his publishing rights on some songs, but Chess still controlled his master recordings.
I feel alright.
And when Chuck tried to leave the label in the 1960s, Chess sued him and tied him up in legal battles for years. What makes the Chess Records story particularly insidious is how it's been romanticized. Books and movies about the label portray Leonard Chess as a blues-loving entrepreneur who helped black artists. And while he did record important music, he also exploited every artist on his roster. He took advantage of their lack of legal representation, their limited options, and the racial dynamics of the 1950s and 60s. After Leonard Chess died in 1969, the label was sold. The catalog has changed hands multiple times, each sale worth tens of millions of dollars.
I shake all over, but I feel alright. I never thought.
And every time it sells, the families of the artists who created that music get nothing. Because the contracts Leonard Chess had them sign gave away everything in perpetuity, forever. Number 1, Sam Cooke, 1960. And now, number 1, a deal so dark that it might have cost an artist his life. Sam Cooke was more than a great singer. He was a visionary businessman who understood earlier than almost anyone that black artists needed to own their work. By 1960, Sam had already had massive success. He'd transitioned from gospel to pop. He'd had multiple hits. But he'd also watched how the industry worked, how labels took everything while artists struggled. So Sam did something revolutionary. He started his own record label, SAR Records. He also founded his own publishing company, Cags Music. He was one of the first black artists to own his masters and control his publishing. He produced other artists. He mentored young talent. He was building an empire that would allow black musicians to retain ownership and control.
I like that. Come on, baby.
The major labels hated this. Sam Cooke was supposed to be theirs. He was supposed to make them rich. But instead, he was showing other artists a different path. He was proving that independence was possible.
Dollop and a diamond ring, twisting that make me feel good.
That artists didn't need the major label system to succeed. In 1964, Sam Cooke was at the height of his powers. He'd just released A Change Is Gonna Come, a civil rights anthem that made him even more influential beyond music.
I love to go around.
He was planning to expand his business ventures. He was meeting with other artists, encouraging them to seek ownership of their work. And then, on December 11th, 1964, Sam Cooke was shot and killed at a motel in Los Angeles.
There ain't nothing like twisting the night away.
The official story was that he was shot by the motel manager in self-defense after allegedly assaulting a woman. The case was ruled justifiable homicide, but the details never made sense.
Night away, he's dancing with the chicken swat.
Sam Cooke's family and friends immediately questioned the official narrative. There were inconsistencies in the police report, witnesses whose accounts didn't match, evidence that seemed planted. And most suspiciously, Sam's business manager, Alan Klein, immediately took control of Sam's estate and business interests after his death.
The chicks are moving up and back. Oh man.
Alan Klein was notorious in the music industry for acquiring control of artists' catalogs through aggressive and often questionable tactics. Within months of Sam's death, Klein had gained control of SR Records and Cags Music. The very companies Sam had built to ensure artist independence. Klein eventually sold Sam's entire catalog, making millions. Here's where it gets really dark. Multiple people close to Sam have suggested over the years that he was killed because he was too dangerous to the industry, that he was showing other artists how to be independent, that his success outside the major label system was a threat that couldn't be tolerated. These aren't just conspiracy theories. These are statements from people who knew Sam and knew the industry. Whether or not Sam Cooke was murdered because of his business dealings, the result was clear.
Let's do that switch. I like that. Come on, baby.
His death stopped the movement he was building. After Sam died, very few artists tried to follow his model of independence. The message was received: stay in line or face consequences.
Twisting the night away.
And the ultimate insult, Sam Cooke's music, the music he fought so hard to control, has been owned by various corporations ever since. His estate has fought for decades to regain control.
Everybody feel all right. Would you put your hands together for me?
And while they've had some success, much of Sam's catalog is still owned by people who have no connection to him or his vision. Sam Cooke's story isn't just the darkest record deal in R&B history. It's a reminder of what happens when artists threaten the system. It's a reminder that the industry has always been willing to do whatever it takes to maintain control.
Come on, baby. And let's do that twist.
And it's a reminder that true artist ownership is still, to this day, one of the most radical acts in music.